being,
Or. No, they're not too many.
I feel bad because they get these old people. Well, I'm an old person, but you know what I mean.
I haven't seen.
Now you just gotta vote. And the city still has access.
Now that I am responsible. Sell that to
No, I didn't. You can stop horrible. Anti-Irish.
I didn't even,
I am a preacher in the.
I didn't even read it, I just said.
What about it?
The newspaper page that I sent out from 1884.
Oh, I only looked at the sewer part. You read the rest, Dave. Oh, that is so funny. I will call this December 16th meeting of the Board of Trustees to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time, we'll open the floor to any public comment. If anyone would like to make a public comment. Yes, just please say your name, your address, so that the clerk has it, and
I think I'm Michael Peace, Guidice, 14 Pioneer. I am adamantly opposed to this park thing that's gonna maybe not, hopefully ever happen. I think it's an invasion of our privacy on that street. The traffic already, whether it be pedestrian or cars, is already very, very busy. It's gonna be a nightmare. I have 6 grandchildren and live on that street. So I don't think it's a benefit to anybody for any reason. I don't think it's pretty. I think it's a threat or a lure to younger people to be hanging out on that pier, looking directly into Wayne and Peggy's house, which is the end of it. The plexiglass, I think, is gonna look very cheap, not attractive at all, and also a lure for graffiti, smokers, beer drinkers, whatever. There's a beautiful park there that's already on its own beautiful. It does not need any enhancement. And I think it's a waste of our taxpayers' money and your time and effort. That's it for me.
thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Wendy Smith, 4 Pioneer Street. I just want to thank the council for receiving my letters, and they were meant in a constructive fashion, and I think it started to create a conversation, which I think is always healthy and good. I understand that there may be some possibility for changes, alternatives, and input. And I appreciate the council listening, because I know you all give your time and you work really hard on these things. And I guess that's what I want to say, and I look forward to hopefully being able to put positive, constructive commentary into what could happen if this platform doesn't go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Anyone else? Ellen.
I'm trying to get rid of the crop.
Oh,
Sorry. Ellen Pope, CEDO 2000 and also resident and property owner at 28 Elm Street in Cupertino. I wanted to follow up last time at the public information meeting. I did not say, I meant to say, thank you for all you guys do as 100% volunteers. I'm not sure everybody knows that. You guys are all volunteers, and it's a thankless job, and I really appreciate that, because not every village board is fully volunteer. So I recognize the efforts that you all have put in outside of your regular jobs and retirement ideas. But I wanted to follow up on what I said at the last in the public information meeting. I understand that there is possibly room for alternatives to Lakefront Park that wouldn't obstruct the view or change the view, I should say, change the view. And I think that I've spoken with a couple of stakeholder groups, other individuals that have some positive ideas, one of the positive there that would take into account the increased access for pedestrians with mobility challenges. The boardwalk is aging and it's slippery in the rain. The landscaping, I think everybody agrees is too tall for the, being able to sit and enjoy the view. And so I think with incremental changes, lakefront could be enhanced exponentially. And I would be really I would look forward to working with everybody on coming up with a plan. I think there are also wonderful things going on at other parks, specifically Ferry Spring. I know that this is an implementation grant, and so it may not be able to use for something else. That would be in the planning stages only. But the Ferry Spring project is fabulous. I would encourage the board to think creatively about what goes into the parks and how the residents themselves can use them. And I would just also encourage for surveys and things to use another mechanism besides the village voices, not village voice. Because it goes to property owners only. And I know on my corner of Susquehanna and Elm, there were 35 apartment units that I counted. Just in a half block radius in my direction of 35 at Elm. And so none of those folks received that survey, even though some of them have been longtime residents. They just choose not to purchase or to own, or they can't own. So I would encourage a wider dissemination somehow, whether it's mailing to every address in the village, as opposed to just going out to the property owners. Just because as a renter, I would never have a reason to come to the village office either. So it's just something to consider in the future to reach more residents.
Okay, thank you.
May I do a follow-up?
Yes, you can.
Also, in that vein that Ellen was saying, I've seen some exceptionally good small village websites that might address some of that same issue the way that news goes. So I'd be happy if the council is interested to forward just the way some certain websites run that make it very easy for people to see and navigate. It may not work. It may not be something that's needed, but I find sometimes looking at other villages that have done it really, really well in some ways because they have, 12-year-olds doing their website or big IT people. Copying someone who's doing something effective is often good. Thank you.
That would be appreciated to sort of share some others and because we'd certainly be willing to look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other comments? Yes.
Hi, Matt Sons from 25 Mayor Street. You have my wife, Mary Margaret Robbins, letter already, but I too just wanted to thank you all for your service. But I guess one of our concerns, in addition to what my wife already wrote, was the foot traffic that we received. And maybe this was said, unfortunately I didn't make the last meeting, but we received a lot of foot traffic on our street on the lower end of Pioneer. And this viewing dock, whatever terminology you want to use, is right at the end of the street. It's only going to encourage, in our opinion, more foot traffic. We have lots of people walking in the middle of the street. If you go to other streets around town, you don't really see the people walking in the middle of the street, but you do on our street. So we have concerns about that. In addition, I want to be one of the guys that would speak. So far, we got just females, but and I appreciate that. But and then also for Wayne and Peggy, I just sort of feel, not sort of, I feel bad. Somebody would be able to look right in their dining room and see what they're eating at dinner. And anyhow, those are great concerns. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, man. Is there anyone else? Yes.
I'm Patsy Smith, and I'm gonna be quick about this because everybody's been talking about it. But I feel very strong. First of all, I even see when I go down there, this other whole row in the water of, this new that has only been there for a year or so. So I look down and I look at where these two people are. And I feel sorry for them because that is not what we want, I don't think. I think we're really trying to make it beautiful and nice and quiet. And I think being quiet would be very nice because there's so much traffic that goes down there in a way, because they walk most of the time. Some come out and look at what's going on, but then they just leave on, you know, on their, things like that. But it's just that I really feel quite strongly that it would be nice if we could just have it the way we've always had it.
Yes,
Point with Wayne Imerson, 2 Pioneer. The point was brought up the other day, and I had, I was up today working, and I was also, there's people that can't get out of their car. They'll sit there and watch that lake for an hour, hour and a half at a time. Put that viewing dock there, but they'll see it through that plexiglass and all the other things obstructing. And then on a rainy day or cold day, they sit in that car, enjoy the thing for a long, long time. Thank you.
is there anyone else? No? All right, then I'm closing the public comment portion of the meeting. We will go on to follow the agenda. We will move on to correspondence. There was an email from Rich Hulse, 9 Pioneer Street, regarding the lakefront viewing platform, which is all these materials are in our prepared packet. An email with a follow-up letter from Wendy Smith for the village and the Freeman's Journal regarding the lakefront viewing platform. And an email from Mary Margaret Robbins, 20 Pioneer Street, regarding the lakefront viewing platform. We have no public hearings scheduled for this evening, so we will move on to the review and approval of minutes of our November 25th, 2024 regular meeting. Is there a motion? I know there were a few corrections that were submitted to Jenna. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for November 25th.
Second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Permits, we have a permit request from Rosemary Summers of the Fenimore Chamber Orchestra to have a free public concert in the ballroom at 22 Main Street as part of the activities of the Winter Carnival. They've also asked that the fee be waived. That's the $25 application fee, Jenna?
Yeah.
Waiving the $25 application fee. And are they under the Winter Carnival insurance?
Yeah, I think Marshall left a note that they or they are included over that, yes.
Okay.
The previous permit that we approved last month. And that's for the same day?
Not that I'm aware of.
Or was that for this? I don't have my notes yet. And I asked, even if it's not for the same day. We don't have staff to move chairs around and sound systems around and that sort of thing. And
No, it wasn't. That one was for February 2nd.
so it's the next day.
It is the next day. We have chairs up there, correct?
We do,
We have 100.
we have 100.
So we certainly could approve this, consider waiving the fee, but they would have to know the onus is on them to set up the chairs.
Well, and I'm thinking if the other event comes after, there needs to be coordination between the two groups so that
Yeah,
whatever they want it to look like, it looks like.
I have a comment.
oh, that is, yeah, that's the family event they had last year, and they would probably just set up the tables.
And not
with
100 chairs.
And not have as many chairs, so it would have to be cleanup of some of the chairs. Some of the chairs could stay, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm probably gonna come across as a hard nose on this, but we did not waive the application fee for Head Start. I don't mind waiving the fee for usage, but that was a principle that came up that we solidified, so I don't see how we get around the $25 fee. Other than saying, gee, we're not gonna do it for Head Start, but we could do it for something else. These are all good things, and I think they're great, and I'll contribute to them. But I do not think the board should waive the fee.
yeah, it was not the use of the building where we
The
had,
building use fee, I have no problem with waiving,
right, but the Head Start was the use of a park.
but it was an application fee. The point was, there was the application fee that we didn't waive.
All right. So is there a sense of the board?
Would this fall under the Winter Carnival's previous?
That's what I mean.
That's what I would have
I don't
said.
have a problem with that.
Because the Winter Carnival has submitted their insurance. And it's sort of
If
part of that.
it's viewed as part of the Winter Carnival, which has already submitted their fee, I don't have a problem with that. It's not the $25 I want. I'm not happy with the concept that we do this all the time. But my attitude is, if we couldn't do it for Head Start, we can't do it for anybody else.
So is there a motion to approve or deny in any aspect the Fenimore Chamber Orchestra?
If I could just ask a clarifying question. We are assuming that the Winter Carnival only have a permit for the space.
We approved that a while ago.
Right, so if the second assumption is that this is part of Winter Carnival, so.
Yes, it says that there are
On the
not.
town's.
So
Go ahead.
I was gonna make a motion to approve this as an addendum to the previous Winter Carnival permit. With the understanding the various entities need to coordinate the setup of the room, understanding there will not be village staff available on Saturday or Sunday.
There are 100, then that there are chairs available, but the burden will be on them to set up and take down.
I second that.
Second by Richard, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, we have the zoning officials report, and you were emailed the HPARB and ZBA minutes, and so had the opportunity to read those previously. We have in our packet not only the zoning enforcement officer report, but also the reports back from Otsego County Office of Planning Department for the village zoning map and for the temporary use permits.
Regarding the regular agenda, I think for those who may not have read the minutes in detail, it's worth noting 5 Susquehanna.
Right.
Because there was a stop work order issued for this project. And when the application came in, the Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board did not approve it. So I think it's just important to know, because we may hear on the street and we may see in the future more about this particular window replacement project.
Yeah, so it was covered very thoroughly in the HPARB minutes, so hopefully you did review those. Essentially, they went ahead and removed all the historic windows, I believe disposed of them,
Yeah.
and installed vinyl windows, all without any sort of application to the Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board. Moving back to the previous 2 actions we had from last month, but at that time we did not have our notice of the planning department's recommendations. So shall we begin with the zoning amendments, the official zoning map? We have that in.
That one we did.
Right, but at this point, there has not been a signed one. Was that part of the motion? And because there hasn't been one yet.
No, and I picked it up today and it's not right, so I need to take it back.
Okay, so there's none ready to be signed as our official one.
Correct.
So we will carry that over into our January meeting.
And the other one, we're waiting on the planning board, which because of our change in schedule, they're meeting tomorrow.
And so we won't be able to take an action on it, but do read over Otsego County's recommendation on our proposed temporary use permits. Public Safety Committee, I saw that those minutes, they're waiting for us on our table here. So George, do you have any comments, for us?
Just a small handful of items to add. Our recruit is finishing up the academy on December 20th. That'll be followed up with 160 hours of field training, riding with a single officer and learning the ropes, so to speak. The outfitting of the new Durango is near completion. We don't have a date set for delivery. And once it is delivered, then plan B is going to see if we can retrofit the current Durango so that the motor runs off a power pack and the car doesn't have to run, you know, endlessly to keep the motor charged there. Other than that, nothing too extraordinary. Staffing's a little bit of an issue, but that should be remedied to some degree with the new hire. We did have one officer who was injured. Okay, kind of a little bit of a strange occurrence. Somebody turned in an antique sword, and curiosity got the best of the cat, and he had an allergic, pretty significant allergic reaction to that, and wound up going to the hospital. But he's doing well. I'm happy to report he's doing well. Other than that, the folks have been doing a really nice job, particularly during this, busier season with a lot of special events and all. Should be commended for those efforts. Any questions?
Are there any questions or comments?
Motion to approve. Accept.
Accept.
Second.
Second by Hannah, all in favor?
Aye.
I know we kind of hurried through that, but I don't know how many participated with the Stop the Ambulance. It was incredibly successful event. And what was it? 2 weeks ago, 2 Saturdays ago. Not only did they collect 1,600 pounds of food that was delivered to the food bank, they also collected 3,466 dollars. So really a wonderful public service that those public servants already provide.
And they worked really hard because there were cans and cans and cans of goods that have to be brought down the stairs there. Mostly young people, but working diligently. To their credit. Further on, there's a couple of notices, and I'm sorry, I didn't speak up right away on this there. Unit 292, one of the ambulances is having some sort of malfunction with the leveling system in the vehicle. So the, if I remember correctly, the vehicle's listing to starboard and can't be operated. Our replacement parts are on order. It does look like we're going to move forward with the purchase of 2 ambulances from Casanova. And Mike Simon, who's the EMS captain, says it looks like there may be some departments interested in actually purchasing our ambulances once they're surplus. Other than that, everything's good.
Speaking of equipment, as you know, we approved the sale of the 1996 aerial ladder fire truck to Oneana for $40,000. And those agreements have all been signed. Oneana has indicated that at the end of this month, they will be sending the check for the $40,000, which will go into our fire equipment reserve because that's where we took the money for the new aerial ladder that we just purchased. Moving on, Doubleday Advisory Committee.
Just 2 things of note. I got a message from Marsha and Jenna that the jersey has been shipped. Our 6-month saga is over.
Maybe Owen and I are good friends now.
Good. And Matt Kent from the batting cages attended our meeting. To discuss the vending in Doubleday parking lot. The committee felt very strongly that it should be referred to the streets committee.
Yeah, I made a note for next time.
That is all for me unless there's questions.
I had two questions.
Okay.
One was about the picnic tables, which I strongly support, but I feel like based on what's written here, we may need to clarify to whom the picnic tables are going to belong, because I was thinking they were Friends of Doubleday. And this suggests that they are being funded by private entities.
There was a specific private entity who wanted to make a donation to Friends of Doubleday
Okay.
to purchase.
I think they're just the conduit for the funds.
I just want to make sure, because last time we talked about a plaque and all of this, and I thought we were talking about Friends of Doubleday.
Friends of Doubleday.
Okay.
Sorry, that might need a wording adjustment.
So can I ask though, I thought the plaque was more a sort of sign saying these were made from the historic bleacher seats that were removed from the former third baseline
Yes.
stadium.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And could be available for sale.
Yes.
Is that what the plaque is?
That is the plaque.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
And then my other question, and this may seem off topic, is, so Cassandra said that in addition to credit cards, we should consider PayPal and Apple Pay. That's on the second page.
Referring to what?
Referring, I think, to reserving games.
Oh,
at
yes.
Doubleday
Yeah, okay.
Field.
On the website.
Is there, I will tell you, I accept PayPal as part of another organization. PayPal is not easy to work with. They take a lot of money. And I would be reticent to think the village would accept payment by PayPal. And I just wondered what the rationale was.
I think her rationale was the one-click purchase, but I think in this case, it's really not necessary since we're already potentially very much simplifying the process by
Yeah.
having it available online. So I think that was just,
Jenna, right now, we take water and sewer payments through Municipay, right? And that's the use of their credit cards. So we have the mechanism for credit cards. I kind of concur, I'd be very leery of heading into all these other payment apps, particularly when we're taking this first step to an online process
Yeah.
for the reservations.
And does the municipality have a service fee?
Oh, yeah.
But it's charged to the individual.
Yeah.
Yes, we don't pay the fee.
and is Municipay something that we would be able to link on the Doubleday website?
Possibly, I mean, we linked the water and sewer to our main website, so I guess it's possible. Kyle should be.
Yes, thank you.
There any other questions or comments on the Doubleday Field Committee minutes? No, motion to accept the Doubleday Field Committee minutes by Joe, second by George, all in favor. Streets Committee.
All right, a couple updates since our meeting and one action item. So let's start with the action item. It's at the bottom of page 1. As I think everyone around the table knows, we have a contract with Otsego County. And Otsego County has a contract with our trolley service provider. So there's a 3-way relationship that makes our trolley go. That contract is good through the summer of 2025, but then will need to be renewed. And renewing it is a complicated process. And that by that contract, I mean the one between the county and the service provider. Tammy came to our meeting from county planning and gave us a couple of different options. One, we could decide we don't want to have this complex relationship anymore and we want to do our own RFP. I don't think that would be a wise move on our part at all. The other is that we could ask the county to issue an RFP only for the trolley. I don't think that's a very good move either. The third option, which she was suggesting and which we did last time, is to have the county issue an RFP that includes the trolley and OP, or an Exigo Express. And has three different options. A respondent can respond to both of those services, to just the trolley and to just Otsego Express. I would lead toward that third option. We let the county issue the RFP and we let respondents package different transportation options in a way that makes sense to them. I think that's the best option both for the county and for the village in terms of keeping the trolley going. Tammy and I are, however, both concerned that we may get a limited number of respondents. There just aren't many people who are doing this type of transportation.
And can you explain a little more about what our issue is and why they're struggling with this?
Why we are struggling with it? Well, I think there's multiple issues. One, there aren't very many transportation companies that are willing to take on this type of rural transportation route that is seasonal, right? So that's issue number one. Issue number two is that the prices for everything are escalating astronomically, right? So that includes fuel, but it also includes driver time, labor, it includes maintenance on the vehicles. So costs are going up generally. And issue number three is that the trolley is expensive for us to run regardless of costs going up. And right now, the village pays what the riders don't pay and STOA doesn't pay, so it is a losing proposition for us every year. We have overcome that by accepting private funds to help offset the operation.
And we still believe this trolley is, the presence of the trolley is a value added for the quality, life and tourism experience, and so on.
I think there are people who believe that, yes. I mean, I will say that for next year, I'm not that concerned. We have an enterprise fund. It can only be used for the trolley and there is money in it. So.
It's been funded by the sale of our prior village-owned trolleys. This relationship, remember, is fabulous because we're only paying 10% of, $120,000 trolley. The county pays the 90%. So it's a win-win in many ways for the village, but it's always going to be a loss leader. It's almost a service we provide.
Thanks.
So does it make sense to, and we're ahead of the game on this, but does it make sense to ask the county to begin drafting an RFP that includes our trolley as an alternative that can be bid on either with Otsego Express or separate from Otsego Express?
What's the outcome if there are no bids on our trolley?
Yeah, that's a great question.
But also, would it hurt Otsego Express? Like, we don't wanna hinder.
I don't think it'll hurt Otsego Express. The way that they want to do it is to allow people just to bid on Otsego Express if that is their prerogative. The hope was maybe we could pick up some more bidders on our trolley by bundling it.
And when do you think, when will that process end? So we may have an answer to Hannah's question, but when would we likely get that answer?
I think their expectation is to do it in the fall.
So we're looking for 2027.
26.
I could see it, particularly if, during the course of that meeting, discussion, certain stipulations, and they,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
particularly.
we need a better RFP than we had last time.
I think if there's a little review of that RFP by the village to make sure that some of our concerns.
Yeah, that's exactly why we're talking about it now and not waiting until summer to do this.
So they might want to begin generating that RFP in almost the summer months if possible.
Yeah,
So,
no, I just think we can get an answer to Hannah's question in the fall. The other thing related to the trolley that I'd like your permission to move forward on. There is, so one of the things the county does for us is apply for federal funds. And they have some federal funds right now from the last round of grants. And there has been some talk among residents about the benefit of having a trolley shelter on Chestnut Street near Cooper Lane Apartments. That would require reaching out to the property owner. And I'd be happy to do that, but I wanted to get the board's feel for whether we all think that's positive. I think it's a positive.
Absolutely.
So,
And that would just be on one side, it would serve both directions.
Yeah, I
Across the
think-
street from the bus game.
I think the waiting largely takes place on the southbound side. Like if you're going to New York City, for instance, you wait for the bus there, and then when it goes by, you know, presumably when it drops you off, you go immediately to whatever your next thing is. So, yeah,
Okay, that sounds good, and we talked about that before.
We have.
It doesn't make sense.
yep, I just didn't know there was money for it, and now I do, so. So any trolley questions before we move on to other things? Willowbrook. Friends from the Army Corps of Engineers were hoping to be here this week. They will not. I think they may have underestimated the severity of New York weather. So,
They did come, I spoke to some of them.
Oh,
No,
like-
they were here, they were planning to be here a whole week, and they instead were here for 3 days. And were planning and left because of a snowstorm. We're planning to come, and once again, our weather was not conducive for the type of work they're going to be doing, so.
they'll be back. And the good news regarding EV chargers, which we hadn't heard from at our meeting, is that project is slowly moving forward. Our provider is working with the utility company, NICIG, and is working on easements with adjoining property owners. So it's not as quick as we would have hoped, but there is some hope for the spring.
So do we have any property issues that we have to work out before that installation? We were talking about the survey and the land.
No, all the equipment and everything will be on village property, it'll be in Fowler Pond. It's really because this is funded essentially through a NYSERD grant. These EV chargers, it's at no cost to the village, but they have to be able to get the appropriate power to that corner of Fowler Way. So it would be like an overhead easement they will need to run a new line to an existing pole or potentially a taller pole.
It has nothing to do with our survey.
No.
No, it's just about being able to run a power line to the right spot. Are there any questions about anything else streets related? I do want to point out with the winter weather that our streets crew has been, I think, doing an excellent job keeping things maintained.
All right, motion to accept streets committee report. Second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to, well, buildings committee did not meet. We probably should.
But there's a comment. Yeah, buildings committee did not meet, there was nothing pressing until this weekend when both boilers went out. Simultaneously, one of them is functioning, as you might notice, we do have some warmth in here. The other one is being scheduled to be repaired,
The individual will be here tomorrow.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they always function, so they would switch between one and the other, and the problem seems to be that the control panel, they're not switching.
We've been chatting about this informally, but I thought I'd bring it up. We have on hand our storm windows, but they're not yet installed in a number of the windows. So I'm hoping we can get the vendor to do that as soon as possible because we're losing them.
It's not the vendor, it's us.
Yeah, Mitch and
Oh, I thought. it was the
Yeah,
vendor.
we asked the other day and we were told that because the windows are old and different size, that they only go in a certain way, and we were told by the vendor that he would be installing them.
Oh, really? That was
Yeah.
not my understanding.
Mitch did some today, I know, I just.
Yeah.
don't know what-
Mitch put
Okay.
some in.
Okay. All right.
Great, thank you.
All right, So moving on to treasurer's report.
Yeah, this report will largely be on our consent calendar, but there were two items, I think, that are action items that I want to call attention to. The first one is the Delta Engineering invoice that we'll be moving to pay. This has to do with the Lakefront Park View Platform project. This will be the last invoice in this enterprise for work already done. I want to be clear when we're acting on that, the public understands where we are with that. So with that, I move the payment of the Delta Engineering number 3 in the amount of $9,619.47.
Motion made by Joe, second by Richard, all in favor?
Aye. And just a point of order on item number 7 under personnel and finance, we are moving to reestablish the start date for watershed inspector.
Effective 12/3/24. That was it.
Yes, and I
Yeah,
just wanted to be sure that that's,
that is correct. We should do that.
so I make that motion.
All right,
Second.
second by Cindy, all in favor?
And that concludes the rest is for our consent agenda, the acceptance or the approval of the rest of the agenda.
Right, motion for the rest of the items on the finance consent agenda by Joe, second by Richard, all in favor? Moving on. I'm sorry, the Delaware Engineering was under our water and sewer, right? No.
It's under the I&I study on grants and projects.
Oh, okay, I see it,
was
it's coming
added
up, got it, okay. Under grants and projects update, we had a very successful Welcome Home First Town in December. It was a repeat of the inaugural year last year in December, where we had meet and greet and stroll the street. And we had 23 businesses stay open on Tuesday, December 3rd, with Luminaria down Main Street. It was, and then a large crowd gathered first here for activities at the library. And for the first time, the Hall of Fame became very involved, and they hosted the Pathfinder Bell Choir and free admission at the Hall of Fame on that day. And they thought the event was wonderful, and they would love to participate in the same manner next year. As you know, we tend not to have a Welcome Home Cooperstown in the month of January. It's a planning month. And currently that committee will be meeting January 7th at 6 o'clock upstairs to sort of look at the events for the calendar year. And at that time, it'll probably remain first Tuesdays, but they'll submit a request for building use because they use the front porch and in the winter months, the hallway upstairs. So that'd be that. New York Forward, although all those projects were announced by the governor at the end of May 2024, there has been really no movement. We have none of the New York Forward community to have gotten their control. When the moment occurs, we may be rolling over those funds from this year's budget, because obviously we carefully plan to think we might start some of those, but that will not be the case. Which brings us to Lakefront Park Platform, which was talked a great deal about earlier. And we have one particular action item, and that is to reject the bids for the Lakefront Park platform. I make that motion, second by Cindy, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Here's the good news, that Cindy and I called New York State Parks. And usually if you are awarded a grant and you've done a scope, etc. And remember, this was a grant that the board approved applying for in 22 and then again in 23. And we did receive it in 23. If you usually if you don't carry through, you lose it. So we would lose the 224,000. But I thought, have a really receptive New York State Parks representative for our district. And she was very open to considering any other project which is already underway. It can't be kind of reinvent the wheel. And so Cindy and I thought we had a very good project, and that is to couple with the work that the Friends of the Parks are doing already at Ferry Spring Park. Now that involved, as you recall, making the pavilion building ADA compliant and largely by relocating the road from the lake side of the pavilion to the county route side. So they're already kind of invested. They worked with the engineer and they've taken that on. One component that project did not include were ADA compliant bathrooms. And there is, they had begun a little bit of work with an engineer to use part of the changing rooms to create an ADA compliant bathroom. And also, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but our caretaker's quarters does not have a bathroom. He comes out and uses the public toilets, which are, you know, a ways away from that building. He does have his own, or she does have their own shower in the building, but not a toilet. So it would look at sort of providing better facilities there, and certainly an ADA compliant one, and potentially some improvement to the waterfront for greater seating. And this is a proposal that the parks said they could get, New York State Parks thought they could get right behind. It is a little bit of I don't want to say a rush, but they encouraged us to within a few weeks to submit another proposal. The next Parks Board meeting is January 6th. Yeah.
I mean, it's usually the first Monday at 3 o'clock, nobody's confirmed that.
I'm happy to run that if Audrey is unavailable.
Yeah, and so we thought what we could do is have a presentation on that. There would be plans on a proposed ADA because the Friends of the Parks were not able to really take that component of this on, some of this other work. And get a sense of the Parks Board, the Friends of the Parks. It's a public meeting, anybody who wants input on that. And then hopefully be able to compose a new scope that would be approved by the Parks Board, so we don't lose our $224,000.
Does this need a motion?
Well, at this point, I think we'll need you can amend that this is the concept we're looking at, but we certainly won't have proposed. We'll circulate that building scope after the January 6th meeting.
We might have to have a special meeting.
Yeah, we might have to have a special one to kind of approve that, but we will certainly circulate it. There can be some comment, and we can meet. So we're not trying to edit at a table.
Better use of the money.
All right. So,
I think that's a great idea.
excuse me?
I think that's a great idea. Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yes, because the prior parks individual rep, we'd been led to believe we'd applied for some funding for this park, and they said, it was for whatever reason, they said we won't be funding probably anything in there. So we have a new representative whose name is Sunshine, and she is fresh sunshine, and she's been marvelous to work with. So we think, this is a win-win here. Oh,
Excuse me, the website says this meeting starts at 6:30.
our meeting?
Yes.
On the calendar, it says 6 p.m. It's been 6 p.m. for the last 4 months.
But the website says 6:30.
Where on the website, because on the calendar, it says 6.
All right, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yes. See, it says.
Yeah, that's not the calendar, that's the procedure.
How in person,
On the main page has the calendar with all the times.
I had a public comment and I thought since the website says
Oh.
6:30.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You missed the
I
public comment. Okay, yeah, since, I don't know, June or July, we moved to 6 o'clock as get us home a little earlier.
Website should-
I will allow you to speak if you would like at this time.
Okay, well, okay, that would be great. I will amend it because since you rejected the bids, I just want to point out the most pertinent part. Extending platform over the lake, Celia Oxley, 10 Pioneer Street.
Are you talking about the platform?
The lakefront.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I realize you still want to make your public comment. May I make a point? You've won.
Oh, I understand that, but it is still a point to be made here. And that's accessibility. Extending a platform over the lake will not improve view that is literally a few feet back. There's a path and a bench that provide a view for anyone who can reach them. It is possible to access the path and the bench at the beginning of the summer. It becomes difficult by the end of the summer because of the plantings there. Many are tall and flop over when they reach their full height. I'm suggesting that could change. Accessibility to the edge of the lake is as simple as a good design with what we have there. Today, accessibility is possible on many surfaces that would be considered less expensive than a platform. The garden at Cornell Cooperative Extension on Lake Street has an accessible surface of gravel that was poured into grids that hold the gravel firmly enough to allow people with wheelchairs and walkers to travel through the garden. There are many surfaces at many price points that could be considered. The plantings could be chosen that do not obliterate the path during the summer season. If you wish the taller plants, they can simply be moved back. The possibilities are endless, including no plantings at all at the edge of the path. As a Cornell master gardener, I can easily put the village in touch with my volunteer colleagues who could aid in the section of plants that are easily maintained by the village workers that look beautiful and do not encroach on accessibility of the path. You could also opt the lawn to the edge of the path. So basically that is what I'd really like you to hear. That if we change the plantings, sometimes I can't even use that path. And I can walk, so I'm just suggesting that we could look at the plantings this summer.
Thank you, Celia. Moving on with grants and projects. Our grant for our INI study. We need to approve the invoice from Delaware Engineering in the amount of $3,944.45 for Speedy's permit review and modification. Is there a motion to approve by Joe, second by George, all in favor? I should point out that there was a Microsoft Teams meeting this afternoon that I know Mitch and I and the engineers, Joe wasn't able to make it, and Anders also wasn't able to make it. But we reviewed our current permit with the DEC, and as you all know, we have a little flow issue, but the last 2 months, our flow is markedly improved. And when the flow improves, so does the phosphate. So we are working with DEC to ensure total compliance for the Chesapeake standards of 2025. Oh, really exciting news. At last month's November meeting, we held the public hearing and approved the resolution to apply for Round 9 Restore New York for the 217 Main Street project. So after that meeting, I basically cloned our Round 8, which was not successful, as you recall. And unfortunately, when you clone a CFA, a lot of the information rolls over, but none of the documents. But having learned that the hard way on a prior CFA application, I had gone in and downloaded, because once it's submitted, you can't access your documents anymore. So before it was submitted, I accessed all the Round 8 documents that had been uploaded. And so I sort of had that to begin with. I will say that the CINA group was really helpful. I let them carry a lot of the weight on this. But obviously we had to upload our new resolution, our public notice for the meeting, as well as the property assessment list, which had to be printed in the legal notice 3 successive days and have that notarized by the paper. There were a lot of stipulations. We made sure we had all our T's crossed and our I's dotted, and that application was submitted today. So very wonderful. And it is for a potential $1 million to help with that project. Cindy, anything more to add on the Willowbrook other than people from Baltimore don't like our New York weather?
No, I think that's what we have, but I do have another grant.
Oh, right. Why don't you stick it there?
Yeah, so last month we talked about applying for 2 NYSERDA grants because we were suddenly eligible for funding for clean energy projects, and we thought it was going to take a long time for us to hear, as it does with most grants, and we've already gotten notification that we got the $5,000 grant and the $10,000 grant. We don't have them. We don't even have big checks, but we have emails that say.
We have emails. And as you recall, this was exciting because particularly that 10,000, and we can use some of the 542, though that one it doesn't have stipulations per se, but the 10,000 we'll be using for a new heat pump at our wastewater treatment plant office.
When we get that money, can we make a corresponding shift to a fund like sewer funds?
No. Water, yes, sewer, no.
Okay, so that was nice. Sort of, have we got your other one on here?
It's down underneath this.
Okay, great. We'll take that later. So that's it for grants and projects update. Moving on with board reports. Parks Board did not meet in December. Community Environment did not meet in December. This can be a good meeting. I told you, Jenna. Water and Sewer Board, the minutes are attached and there are 2 action items. Joe?
Right, so there was a request for reduction in the water and sewer bill. This property owner has approached us before with a request for reduction over with an excessive water use charge. This time it occurred again, but our telemetry that reads the meters, it was not functioning on that meter during a crucial period of time. So even though the burden of proof, in my view, remains on the property owner to demonstrate that they're not at fault, the technician advised the water and sewer board, or the water plant operators to consider making an adjustment. So as a result of this, the recommendation of the water and sewer board is to reduce the water and sewer bill by half.
What are you referring to?
The Tenti bill, it's the 5th, 6th bullet down on the 2nd page.
The second that.
Motion made in second.
Question?
Can we Mr. Tenty has done this before. He very often leaves his house for extended periods of time and leaves his water on.
Right.
And I am unhappy about refunding, but I understand that that's what our technical, advisor said we needed to do, but I feel like he needs to be counseled that this can't keep happening, and that he needs to have his water shut off if he's going to be gone.
Right, and we have put that in, that the main be shut off when the home is unoccupied. We reiterated that advice.
Let's make that part of the motion, so it's in the public
Okay.
record that we're doing this. And should this is the second time this has occurred, so the third time if it occurs, we can say, you didn't remove the meter.
And I want to be clear that this wouldn't have happened this time, but for our technical glitch. If our telemetry showed what was happening with water flowing through the meter, we would have stood by that and we would not have reduced the bill.
Mhm.
But this was a suggested compromise.
No, I get that. I think that has to be part of the motion, and Richard said
So I
it,
accept it.
yeah, okay. All in favor?
Aye. And then there was we had a request from Paula DePerna that as everyone knows, the EPA circulated a directive for municipalities, water providers to do an inventory of water service lines from the municipal mains to the individual households to check on whether there was lead involved. So our village has complied with that. We had with really good diligence by our staff, we probably about an 80% response or information about 80% of the connections in the village. We found only one with lead. There were a few galvanized and there is no follow-up funding for remediation of any lead pipe issues. That remains a federal decision. But we've complied with our obligation to the federal government. Now the question is, should the village undertake to provide testing kits for people's home use? The consensus of the Water and Sewer Board was that because the connection from the village main to the property owner's water supply is the property owner's responsibility, and our connections are not the source of any lead, or our mains are not the source of any lead, and we do test independently, that we would not recommend approving a village payment for private owner water testing.
I would agree with you that we shouldn't pay for it. I do think that the letter that we sent, or that was sent on our behalf, was a bit alarming. And I think that telling people to order a lead test on Amazon is probably not the best solution. I wonder if our staff could compile a list of certified laboratories and share them with people when they inquire. So that it seems as if we're facilitating, without paying for it, we're at least facilitating the testing to be done in a way that is constructive and certified and may provide more peace of mind. I mean, we could even say, this is not an expensive test to have done. We could even indicate the price range for.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what their research capabilities are, but we could.
I mean, we have our water tested, so they have to be familiar.
I was gonna say, Eliana tests that, is it not correct, where we take our water,
Right, well, it depends on it's like blood work, what you're signing up for to be tested for.
right, but we do have to have lead tests done of our water, it's one of the annual water report.
And we do our protocols of collecting and sampling and so on and so forth. It's there's many a slip twixt cup and lip, even if you are getting it to a certified lab, how you collected your sample and so forth. So there's a lot of room for error.
Yeah,
In all of this, and false negatives, false positives,
sure.
and so on. So it's a tricky issue.
Yeah, I feel like we could be
Helpful,
helpful.
yeah.
Okay.
Without expending our finances, which I agree with you, I don't think that we should be paying for tests on lateral lines. Unfortunately, one of the lines in that letter that we sent out, I believe said something like, your lateral line, which the village may or may not have installed, which was just really poor wording.
Yeah, I think it was kind of the standard letter that they
I'm
were
sure.
sent, yeah.
Um. The old business of grease trap penalty letters to businesses, so, we had we had drafted a letter, we had, approved as a board of the penalty for failure of, for restaurants, food, those that serve, prepare and serve food, have grease traps in their kitchens, because we have pretty serious coagulation problems in our sewer system. So we now have finally approved a letter being sent, which I believe the clerk did send out this week. That
The week of the meeting and on the day of the meeting.
Second,
The letters were sent the day of the meeting.
the day of the water and sewer
So
board
that's.
meeting. So we will be looking for responses either in the nature of compliance, or we'll be assessing a penalty against and charging it to the water and sewer bill if there isn't compliance. And the idea is to install, maintain grease traps to keep grease from coagulating in our sewer system. I don't know that we had any other action items.
No, I think that was it. I think in follow-up, it was, if you recall, probably it was like last June, May, June, we sent out that initial letter asking for their inspection reports and cleanings and proof that they had cleaned their grease traps, and we got very little response. The board set that $500 penalty on December 10th. We mailed the letter. They have until January 10th to confirm they've had a clean out of their grease trap. And what we found, we were down to about 10 restaurants and food establishments. We've heard from 3 who didn't even have a grease trap and have since installed them. So we will now have the documentation of that. So it's interesting. It was a good catch to try and eliminate this issue. Motion to accept water and sewer board report by Cindy, second by Hannah, all in favor? For your review are the Watershed Supervisory Committee minutes in your packet. Relative to the Watershed Supervisory Committee, I should let you know that at this point, a lot of the preliminary paperwork has been submitted on our Department of State local waterfront revitalization project grant. The 500, well, it's a $710,000 grant to develop a 9E plan to hopefully address the algal blooms that are occurring in Otsego Lake. And all of the subcontractors in that, and that includes OLA, SUNY Research, Biological Field Station, etc., have all submitted their MWBE statements and other documentation. So a lot of the preliminary grant work has already been accomplished for that. We don't have our contract, but we know this unique grant, all our costs back to April 1st, 2023 will be covered. The RFP for the consultant to develop, work with all the advisory groups, including OCCA, OPSICO 2000, all the people that were noted as the advisory group for this 9E plan. That RFP, the request for proposal, did go out like the 4th of this month. They have until the 30th to submit a proposal. So we will be accepting those probably in early January, sit down with a scoring metric and determine and hopefully select a consultant, which would be approved by this board. New business. Oh, we had our bid opening for fuel and propane bid for the 2025. And you can see the low bid. You have both the bid result sheets, but on your agenda is the low bid. And it is Buell Fuels, which was our provider actually for oil and gas propane for this past year, with a bid of $2.6219 per gallon for fuel oil and $1.529 per gallon for propane. So I move we approve Buell Fuels at those prices for our 2025 year. Second by Joe, all in favor? We have in our packet the village election resolution. We need to approve this resolution.
So moved.
By Richard, second by Cindy, all in favor? This is you, Cindy, approval to submit an application for the +1 ADU program through Homes and Community Renewal.
Yeah, so I sent you a link with some more information today. New York State has this +1 ADU program. What I would like to do at this point in time is to submit an interest inquiry to ask for this program to be applied to the village of Cooperstown. That is the first step, and you know, clearly the first round of applications is due January 15th. That's not reasonable. But if we get on their list, then as Joe has suggested, we could start talking to the public about this, but we need to know they'll actually do it in Cooperstown before we can
Your comments will take it. We have 5 weeks to do these things, and they have a year and a half after the deadline to get back to us about New York forward.
I know, well, you know, but there will be other deadlines. The first one is January 15th. There will be other ones, probably.
I'm just making a comment.
Yeah, no, I know. So, I'll move that we submit an interest inquiry.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I can't believe this. It's very quick meetings. Our upcoming meetings, our next scheduled Board of Trustees meeting will be Monday, January 27th at 6 p.m. And we will have our breakfast with the board that morning from 8 to 9 a.m. on January 27th. The Board of Assessment Review, which by law has to occur on the third, is it third, second, whatever, the February, a Tuesday in February, from 4 to 8 p.m. is grievance night, and we need a quorum. I already know that 2 of the 7 of us cannot be there that night.
What actual day is it?
It is February 18th. It's right on your agenda. February 18th, 2025, from 4 to 8 p.m. We need at least 4 trustees committing to that evening.
I think I'll be here.
All right, so we think we have Joe,
18th.
George.
If I'm really desperately needed, I can be here.
We may, because at the moment we have 2 of us cannot make it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't see
She's
that.
at a conference and
I wish,
Both of you?
Yeah, so
I wish there was some way to convey to
I
the
get-
state that there needs to be more flexibility in the scheduling of this.
It's just
meeting.
really hard for me to get
Make
here
it.
at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, it's our
Oh,
busiest
Well,
day.
and here's the irony, I could be here at 4, I cannot be here after 5:30, but you have
Yeah.
to sit here for 4
Yeah,
hours.
so we could
you
easily split
can't,
it, but.
yeah, you can't come in and you have to be here all 4 hours. So we, at this point, we have Joe and George,
And me,
Richard, and possibly Hannah. All right, yep. So that would be the 4. So if one of you is feeling deathly ill that day, you're gonna have to enlist the another trustee here somewhere.
Is there- I don't think this is good from a public perspective. But it doesn't have to be 4 to 8, like it could be during the day.
It could be a little earlier, but the idea, if you remember, when I first came on the board, it was always 6 to 10. To try, so because
Yeah.
people who worked,
Right.
you were trying not to do it during work hours and making it that much more difficult for them to get here. So we set up 4, catching some people at the end of the day, and 8, which is a humane time frame, I think. I worry about going 2 to 4 because,
Right. No,
or
I-
I'm sorry, 12 to 4,
2 to 6.
yeah.
I would start my class late if we did it 2 to 6, if we had to.
We are free to set the time as long as it's 4-hour block.
We can be flexible on it, but you do have to remember it's for the convenience of the public. And one time we had someone drive in from Connecticut and wouldn't have gotten here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, to do it. Who own property.
Well, to me, just for the. It seems not unreasonable to set the hours, if this is a matter of such importance to the property owner. Property owner will be here to take care of its interests, and if we can overlap with end of day. After work hours, I'd recommend we do what we can to.
About 3 to 7, at least then you're getting,
Because I.
can't,
That she still can't do it.
Yeah.
I
I would
have class from
accommodate,
5:30 to 8:30, so I can start it like a little late, but I can't start it.
well, how about 2 to 6, because that catches 2 hours of after work.
But you might have
that's not
enough,
after work.
you might have enough people.
For,
yeah, you might have enough, at the moment you have 4, so you
Yeah.
have it, you might even have 5, so.
Except
You
for
got
I
it.
Just realized that's the week of Cooperstown school break,
It is,
so.
I know, and it's always been,
it's the
it's
students.
usually on my birthday.
It's the students.
What day did you say?
This is February 18th, but it's
Does it-
always,
And the state says it has to be that day.
It's the 3rd Tuesday of February. So always after President's Day.
Yeah.
So glad it's not Valentine's Day.
well, I would suggest we do 2 to 6, and we have
Just
so,
right
I think
after.
we've had 1 or 2 in my entire tenure.
Yeah, last year there was nobody.
Right, and there have been other years as well.
I also moved that the village by pizza.
all right, so at the moment, we have at least 4 who can attend. What is the concurrence on your time, Ben?
I'll propose 2 to 6.
3
You
to 6,
can't do that.
3 to 6,
2 to 6.
I would
It's gotta be 4
I would
hours.
prefer 4 to 8, that way you pick up the people who both work during the day and the people who work during the evening. We're in a community where a lot of people actually do work during the evening at the hospital.
why don't we stay with 4 to 8 at this
Okay.
point, and everybody, because we had at least 3 people that were capable of that. And hopefully that will work for everyone.
Pray for good health.
When does the legal notice go out, Jenna, for this? Probably
Beginning of February.
beginning of February, so we'll have the January meeting if everyone's like, there can be some flexibility on the time, but this is always.
I
Third
also
Tuesday.
think that we should register a concern with the state of New York, because it's a bad time for parents, it's during the break. It provides no flexibility for.
You don't have to appear in person, remember, a lot of these can be submitted, the paperwork is submitted in advance, it's only if someone feels compelled for to talk about particulars of their property and they want to make a case to the review board.
Right, and I still believe if it's that important to the person, they're gonna arrange their schedule to be at this kind of a government meeting. It's not. So
No, I'm saying for elected officials or volunteers who serve on board of assessment review. You are eliminating a wide segments of the population by saying it needs to be 4 hours on February 18th. Right? I mean, it's just, it's.
fair enough.
Yeah,
I've thought that for years when I've done this and I couldn't go away for spring break because. I had to be running to.
All right,
Oh,
Yeah.
one,
yes.
just, do we need to act on filling our position? We don't have to confer tonight about that?
we just did.
Oh, wait, we are going to be going to executive
That's-
session, yes.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
had.
so I'm adjourning this part of the meeting for now. And we have to go to executive session, so fortunately, we do that with the door closed. And we'll take action afterwards.
I move, we take, go to executive session.
I'm sorry.
The executive session is for an employment consideration.
Yes,
Okay.
the executive session, the motion was made by Joe, and I believe the phrasing he will use is for the employment history of a particular individual. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a second on
Take care, man.
And second was Richard. All okay?
Hi.
Aye.
Hi.
It's your job, Joe. I'm making an assumption that may be incorrect, but I will be the senior member of the board present for that meeting, is that correct?
Fine.
Yeah. There is a manual. We'll move the hire of Christy Cook as treasurer for the village of Cooperstown pending Otsego County Planning
Secret County HR.
Personnel.
personnel review. Second by Joe, all in favor? And I think it would be good if we also, since we've accepted Deb's resignation effective January 9th, to indicate we would be willing to cover her hourly rate post January 9th for time available for training. Second by Joe, all in favor?
It's actually the 10th, it's January 10th.
Was it 10? I
Yeah,
thought
Friday,
she-
Whatever.
any day after January 10th. that's
All right, 10th, make sure it says 10.
Yeah.
All right, that is it. Board meeting adjourned at 7:32.
Record, when
fine.